March 2nd, 1972, 8:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. An Atlas Centaur rocket roars to life on Launch Complex 36A, sending a massive column of flame into the humid Florida night. Bolted to the top of its nose cone is a 258-kilogram robot named Pioneer 10. It's this spindly, foil-wrapped machine that honestly looks a bit like a forgotten kitchen appliance you just hurl at the stars. But strapped to one of its struts is a gold-anodized aluminum plaque, literally our very first message in a bottle cast out into the cosmic ocean.
Climbing through the atmosphere at over 32,000 miles per hour, this thing instantly becomes the fastest object ever built by human hands. I mean, it crosses the moon's orbit in just 11 hours. 11 hours! It survives the treacherous asteroid belt, where, by the way, engineers legitimately feared a fatal collision. And on December 3, 1973, it swings past Jupiter, capturing the very first close-up images of the Great Red Spot, a hurricane wider than the entire Earth.
And Jupiter's massive gravity? It acts like a giant slingshot. It flings Pioneer 10 outward onto an escape trajectory. We're talking a literal one-way road completely out of our solar system. Its ultimate destination is the red giant star Aldebaran, located about 65 light-years away. And the estimated arrival time for this trip? A staggering 2 million years.
So, 13 months later, its twin, Pioneer 11, follows a remarkably similar path, but it executes an even bolder maneuver. It threads the needle directly through Saturn's rings, just 21,000 kilometers above the cloud tops, before aiming for the cosmic exit in the constellation Aquila. The mission is a total, unmitigated triumph. The probes are doing exactly what they were designed to do. Except, well, actually scratch that. They aren't.
Deep in the labyrinth of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in the early 1980s, a navigation engineer named John Anderson starts noticing something weird: a mathematically impossible drag. By tracking the exact Doppler shift of the radio signals limping back to Earth, Anderson can calculate the probe's velocities to within a millimeter per second. And the math is just completely unforgiving here. Both Pioneers are arriving late at every single checkpoint by the exact same amount. Something is pulling them backward toward the Sun, slowing them by a highly specific number: 8.74 times 10 to the minus 10 meters per second squared.
Okay, to really grasp just how insanely small that deceleration is, think about it like this. If you applied that exact gravitational tug to a sprinter running at full speed, it would take more than an entire year to slow them down to the crawling pace of a glacier. It is literally 1/10-billionth of Earth's gravity. It's almost nothing.
But, as Anderson notes, almost nothing is still not nothing. He painstakingly subtracts everything you could possibly imagine. He accounts for solar radiation pressure, the gravitational pull of every single known planet, the gentle drag of the solar wind, and even the subtle, complex whispers of Einstein's relativity. But, sitting right there in the data, that tiny, persistent sunward pull, it stubbornly remains.
The physics community is thrown into absolute vertigo over this. Because think about it, if Isaac Newton and Einstein are somehow wrong out in the cold dark beyond Neptune, then maybe everything we know is wrong. Wild hypotheses just start churning out. Theorists suggest that invisible dark matter scaffolding is hauling the probes backward. Or maybe we found proof of MOND, modified Newtonian dynamics, meaning gravity actually works differently at low accelerations. Others propose fundamental flaws in general relativity itself, or, get this, even a massive hidden 10th planet dragging the probes.
For 30 years, the single anomalous number absolutely captivates theorists around the globe. It becomes the most beautiful unsolved problem in deep space physics, just this glaring hairline crack in our entire understanding of the universe. And all the while, the oblivious probes just keep drifting further and further into the dark.
And out in that dark, their plutonium power sources are slowly dying. To conserve electricity, engineers are forced to shut down the instruments one by one. The magnetometer goes blind, then the meteoroid detector goes numb. Finally, Pioneer 11 falls completely silent in 1995. Pioneer 10 holds on a bit longer, until January 23, 2003, when a final, incredibly faint photon strikes a dish in Madrid. The probes are gone, and they leave their parting riddle completely unsolved.
Years later, though, a JPL physicist named Slava Turyshev refuses to accept these exotic dark matter theories. He suspects the answer is something far more, well, boring. He focuses on a concept called asymmetric thermal radiation, which is really just a fancy way of describing a recoil force produced when heat is preferentially emitted from one specific side of an object.
You see, the Pioneers are powered by these radioactive bricks of plutonium-238. As these bricks decay, they produce heat. Some of that heat converts to electricity, sure, but the vast majority of it simply radiates away into the vacuum as invisible infrared photons. And Turyshev theorizes that these invisible photons actually carry a microscopic amount of momentum right along with them.
Now here's where the brilliant perspective shift happens. Prepare yourself, because there was no hidden 10th planet. There was no broken physics. It was simply the geometry of the spacecraft itself. While a tiny amount of heat radiated forward, a much larger amount of heat was leaking specifically from the back of the main dish. This mundane asymmetrical heat leak was acting like an incredibly weak invisible thruster, pushing the probes gently sunward. It was literally pushing itself backward.
To actually prove it, Turyshev and his team undertake this absolute monster of a task. They dig through dusty archives and magnetic tapes that are nearly as old as the spacecraft themselves. They build a millimetre-perfect computer model of every single strut, bolt, and antenna. They simulate the exact thermal emission of the cooling plutonium, photon by photon, over decades. And when they finally run the numbers, the asymmetric heat leak produces a recoil force pointed precisely at the Sun, measuring exactly 8.74 times 10 to the minus 10 meters per second squared. Nailed it.
It's just a stunning realization. There was no exotic phenomenon out there. The universe was not whispering a new secret. It was just exhaling. And, there's a kind of bittersweet finality to this discovery. It effectively closes the door on 30 years of cosmic speculation. The oracles that we desperately thought were pointing us toward new laws of physics, they return to being exactly what they always were: retired, drifting machines.
Stripped of their big mystery, the silent probes continue their journey. Pioneer 11 is drifting endlessly toward Aquila. Pioneer 10 is hurtling toward the red eye of Taurus, completely dead, facing a 2-million-year void before it even grazes the outer reaches of Aldebaran.
But bolted to those struts, those gold plaques remain. Long after our sun transforms and swallows the Earth, long after the very last human story fades from memory, those two small aluminum cards will still be out there, just drifting between the stars, the silent silhouettes of a species that, for one brief moment in 1972, dared to wave at the dark. And the dark, as always, keeps its own counsel.